Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to another edition of Prime R, the first for this week. An edition dedicated to looking at the opposition and the population in Cameroon. We're going to be asking the question as to who is disappointing, who is it the opposition that is disappointing the population of Cameroon, or vice versa, and what should we do to rebuild that confidence so that the Cameroon's opposition and the population can now move together and seek to effect the change that they have been longing for all this while. We are discussing on this topic with key opposition members representing different opposition parties on this platform. This evening we have Fabrice Lena. He is the Deputy Communications Secretary for the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, fondly called the Kangaroo Man. He's been away for some time. We're glad to have you once again.
Thanks very much. It's my pleasure making present here today after a long while. But then, greetings to Professor Maurice Kamto, President-elect of Cameroon Renaissance Movement. Greetings to all those members who are currently languishing in jail for no just cause, for protesting for their right. And here comes the price hikes, and here comes all what not you can imagine, just because they want things to be fine. At the same time, as usual, for all the national executive members, we say greetings to all of them, especially as we are currently reorganizing the Center region shortly after a successful reorganization of the basic organs of the party for Littoral 1 and Littoral 2. But above all, the people of Gunoko village, as usual, and His Royal Majesty Dr. Fomiki Walters and a host of others who are watching us right away. It's my pleasure.
We also in the company of Tatan Biglo Kwawi, who is the national president of the CMC political party. Glad to have you on this platform this evening.
It's once again my pleasure, Mr. Leo. Good evening, fellow panelists. Good evening, dear Cameroonians. Once again, it is a great honor to be here today to brainstorm on issues that will forge ahead our country, Cameroon.
We also in the company of Ndifo Richard, who is a NEC member of the Social Democratic Front, the SDF. Ndifo Richard, we are glad to have you.
Thank you so much, Leonard, and thanks for having me in the studio. I think this is the first time for me being here live on the studio, and it's quite a pleasure to be on the panel today to discuss this very important topic. I also want to wish a happy new year to all the militants of the SDF and all the sympathizers of the SDF, and to tell them that we are stronger and we are still waxing very strong, of course.
You did not greet the chairman, eh?
Definitely, I already greeted him before now. Definitely, I wish a happy new year to our veteran chairman, Nijon Frundi, and to all the NEC members of the SDF.
We also in the company of the Secretary General of the PAP party, Fabrice Lena. We're glad to have you once again with us this evening.
Good evening, Sir Liu. Good evening to co-panelists, brothers. Good evening to Cameroonians. Good evening to all the militants of the Popular Action Party. Special good evening to Ka Jokem Quinivet, our Justice Peace National Secretary, to Barnett Gina Evis, to the National President, Jang Dennis Tabe, to all the militants of the PAP in Boya Oban, in Bonaberi, in Santa, in Baligam Village, in Yaoundé 1 to Yaoundé 7 municipalities, and to our allies in the extreme north, in the north, and all over the national territory and in the diaspora. We want to assure you that the Popular Action Party is here to keep on inspiring you for us to together change the political narrative of this country. I'm always very happy to be a guest in this wonderful program. Thank you, Mr. Liu.
Okay, we are also announcing, Eli, take note, can you just put under the screen there, vote for your best microfinance, best credit union in Cameroon. Vote for your best credit union in Cameroon. In the course of this week, at the end of the week, Friday, we're going to be telling you who our audience feels is the best credit union in Cameroon. So as we discuss, please let us know who the best credit union is according to you in Cameroon. I'll start with you, Fabrice Lena. The opposition in Cameroon and the population Many persons think that they are playing what you commonly say a ping pong game. The population blaming the opposition, and the opposition saying that they have been disappointed to some extent by the population that is not following their calls when they need them most.
I think everybody has a right to think the way they think, given that we are in a democratic environment in terms of freedom of expression, though you can be held accountable after expressing yourself if it's not in line with the government dictums.
Okay.
But what I think is that putting that statement, it would be, I call it out of a statement, because the question now is, if one cocoyam spoils, if one cocoyam is spoiled amongst the others, do we say that the entire pot of cocoyams is spoiled? Definitely no. Now, the situation goes, it will be an aspect of disappointment for some political parties that dance the Bafia dance. And it will be an aspect of the population applauding some political parties that act as an eye opener. Now you realize that in the kangaroo system where we are, you will be surprised that they follow all the outings of opposition parties, and then they formulate their policies based on what we say. It is just that as a kangaroo system, they will never want to come out to tell you that this formula we are putting in place is thanks to A or B. They will always come in a disguise to make you feel that it has come from the all overlord, our head of state, illustrious head of state, as it is always the case. So in that case, you realize that some aspect of bad faith will make the population feel that the opposition is not doing what they are supposed to do. But you will bear with me that when you are fighting somebody who has the barrel of the gun, and you have just mere words and strategies to put in place, you are fighting a dictatorial system that can extinguish you or disappear you in less than no time. You are fighting a stubborn regime that does not listen to advice and believe in their own archaic and expired system that is redundant to human living or livelihood. It becomes another call for concern that if you are faced with this kind of scenario, you would do your best. And the kangaroo system manned by elements of, I don't know what we could say, pushed by the spirit, devilish spirit, they will tell you that all what you're saying, you're simply singing a song. So a man who does not analyze the situation properly will think that you, the opposition, you have not done more than good enough. If opposition could go on the street for protests and they are arrested, and you have water cannons being placed at their disposal, arbitral arrest, it means they have done enough, unless the population wants that they should be killed all before they believe that they have laid their lives for them. But I think that we are at a crossroad. The population knows as of now which party is called opposition party and which party is called disguised ruling party in the name of opposition party. So I feel that while we are discussing this, the population should be able to look for those opposition parties that are called opposition parties, not those that were opposition parties in those days and probably are now dancing the Bafia dance in a different direction. But they should be able to look at it. The consistency in opposing the regime, the fact that many have paid the price behind political parties, means that the population should be able to say at least they give us a tap on the back and even bring us palm wine when we are on occasions like this and say, please drink because you have gone through. Because the truth is that not everybody has what it takes to withstand a kind of dictatorial regime as of this nature. Okay. So it's a point for concern.
Okay. The CRM does not think that the population should consider them not working in their favor, and think that the working terrain in Cameroon is very, very not good, and that the population should rather appreciate the little they are doing to be able to stand the government that he describes as no mercy government. Is that the impression you have? Don't you also think that the opposition might have done better than what they have served the population this far?
Well, to the best of my knowledge, I think the opposition in Cameroon has been there for a long time, and they've done a credible job. Because just being an opposition in Cameroon is a big threat to your life as an individual. So most especially the SDF party, I must say they've been on ground for a very long time, and I I used to admire the party so well until along the way they lose control. So, to be honest, in Cameroon, the blame is being shared by both the opposition and the population. Why do I say this? First of all, for the population, a handful of voters do not participate in the electoral process anymore, making the job difficult for opposition to take a lead in our political terrain. I was polling station president in 2011 in Du, and I realized that a handful of those who registered and voted were the aged group. So our youth are very dormant when it comes to the political terrain in Cameroon. This makes it difficult for the opposition to have a stronghold, because what counts in elections are the votes. So once the youth do not go out there to register, to vote massively, we already know what the results, because at the end of the day, the regime that is in place has all the mechanisms to secure another term, another mandate. So I am pleading, I am craving the indulgence of Cameroonians, especially the youths. Now that we are out for a change, they should go out there, register massively, and support the opposition. Once we have your support, your full support, once the votes are there, we are confident that we are going in for the right fight. But if we do not have you by our side, you expect us to perform a miracle and get the results when you are not voting. It becomes practically impossible. So what we have as our own mechanism, our own resources, our own backup are your votes, the population. So stand with us, be it the CMC, be it the STF, be it the PAP. Once we unite forces and face the giant, I assure you that change will come to Cameroon.
The population is also very skeptical in trusting what you are saying, because they would say they vote for you, and after elections you may sell these votes to the ruling party.
Yes, for sure. We know that there are politicians that are just they are like representing other parties in different uniform. They just come in as a political party, get the votes, and hand over to their real parties. We know all those things, but there are real political parties out here that have a track record as far as opposition in Cameroon is concerned. Some of us are coming in now because we realize that some of them are tired. They need energetic young men. The youth also need a change. We are coming in because there's an avenue for change. So I believe that if all the youths rally behind the opposition in Cameroon, cast their votes, for sure there will be a change in this country.
Okay, you hope that a change is coming to this country with the entry into the scene of young, energetic guys like yourself. And therefore, Richard, how much blame would you place on the population that has spent time accusing the opposition parties?
Thank you, Leonard. I would like to take this debate, divide it a little bit before getting into the focus.
Okay.
Yeah, because when we leave the question as to whether we blame the population or we blame the opposition, we seem to be missing the real problem, which is neither of these two. It's neither the opposition nor the population. Of course, we agree that these two groups, they have their share of the blame. But the crux of the matter is that there are a lot of factors that contributed
we are going to be looking at some of those factors.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So yeah, in talking about whether we blame the population or the opposition, the first thing I want to react to is a statement that my brother Fatayon made. He tried to insinuate that there were some political parties that were opposition before, and that today they are friends of the CPDM. And you see, this is the real problem we have. And when you see the people start losing trust in the opposition, it is because of this kind of narrative where people have political parties, and when they started with political parties, they feel that they cannot survive without pulling other political parties to the ground. And you find a situation where the little time that the opposition have to sell their vision, to sell what they have as program for Cameroonians, they spend that time fighting each other. I think on this panel, we are talking about opposition, and we are here as an opposition. And I believe that we should be talking here as a team, which of course, like my brother Tata said, we are one group. We are the opposition, and we are here. We are the victims. The real aggressor here against us is the ruling regime. And so when we start spending time here blaming some party, tagging others as friends of the CPDM and or whatnot, that is exactly the reason why the population start losing trust even in the opposition. Because when you start doing that, you feel like you are running down that particular or other political parties, but in other way, you are running down yourself, because you are causing the population to believe that, oh, if X can do it, then you too, you can do it some other day. So I want to be very clear here that both the opposition parties and the population have a share of the blame as to why we are where we are today. And this stems from the fact that support of the opposition is not built around an ideology. It is built around individuals. It is built around personalities. So much so that when that personality start losing that support, the people start losing interest in the opposition. If you look at what happened maybe in Western democracy, you realize that there is a support for ideology. If you ask most of the opposition parties or political parties, so to speak, what is the ideology you're selling? The ideology you're selling is not Kamto, it's not Frunzi, it's not Lena Fabrice or whoever. The idea you're selling is what is it that you stand for, and how does this thing that you stand for benefit the life of the ordinary Cameroonians? That is what Cameroonians want to look at. But the moment we build it around an individual, which is what has been happening over the years, and today, I have to be honest with you, even my party is a victim of that kind of a situation, where we build support around individuals rather than around an ideology and around the vision of a particular political party. And that is where the crux of the matter is. We have to start having that trust in ideology, so that if an individual loses your support, you maintain the trust within that institution. That is the first thing. The second thing is the degree in which the opposition party is in different factions. The way they are, we have about 300 political parties in Cameroon or more. When Cameroonians fought for multi-partyism in 1990, this was not the kind of multi-partyism they were expecting to see. They wanted to see a multi-party scenario where they will have a few political parties with different ideologies from which they can make a choice. But today we have an array of different political parties, some without even ideologies. You don't even know what their ideology is. And we just know that there is an individual heading these political parties. And so for that reason, many Cameroonians do not even know what to support.
Now, we are looking at the relationship between the opposition, Cameroon's opposition, and its population. What is the rapport that you and you as opposition have with the population, and how supportive has the population been to what you are doing? I know that you have been severally to the north, to the east, and you are constantly on the field in the northwest and littoral regions.
Yes, Mr. Leo. I will start by saying that I appreciate the Cameroonian people, because they are a very patient group of people in Africa. And to say that the question of opposition and the population is a very tricky one. But I will start by saying, you know, in every country there are so many political parties, even in these Western democracies or countries in Africa where they have succeeded to establish a certain degree of limit in office mandate and respect of constitutions. But we are still in a situation where we have not yet obtained basic reforms that will permit for a politician to have a limit to an extent in which such a politician can renew his or her office in the party and also in offices occupied within institutions in the country. And at this point, what Cameroonians need to know is not the issue of blame game, which comes from opposition or from the population. What they need to know is that no matter how many political parties exist in the country, the most important thing is to select those that incarnate values, principles, goals, visions that are able to transform the society to where the people feel that such a party and their way of doing things reflect the aspiration of the people, reflect the culture of the country, reflects the country in the nearest future. This is what the population should be looking. And if you look at it gradually, what has been happening in Cameroon political scene for the past 30 years or more has been transaction and not transformation.
Okay.
And Cameroonians feel discouraged by this transactional way of doing politics, where politician A in party A meet politician B in party B, they carry out their transaction and then they are comfortable, and the population remains deserted, underdeveloped, and they are having all the social problems that they are having. And in such case, such a person who is not a politician will not develop the interest to be in politics, because those who have been supported before or has been given that mass support before have failed to reflect that visionary person, that transformational person, and those who are even in power are not reflecting that kind of change. So the population feel jilted, cheated, or they feel that there is no concern for them. And the opposition itself have been doing a lot, because they are in the face of a kind of democracy that was poorly founded, poorly constituted, poorly constructed. In the 90s, we cannot deny the fact that the basis of multipartyism in the country had not been very favorable to everyone. And the party that had been in power was simply changed, and it has been difficult. There was no fair play, no level ground. The referee and everything were never the same. And in such situation, a conscious population will not leave the responsibility to those who have chosen to dare to change things, but rather take the responsibility to continuously accompany these people till such a change is achieved. I am speaking here to reflect statistics of electoral register since 1991. I'm speaking here to reflect the number of women participation in politics since 1990s. I'm speaking here to reflect the number of young people below 30, below 35, below 40 that have been found in political parties standing for positions such as municipal elections, parliamentary elections since the 90s. So when you look at the low participation, when you look at the low representation, it cause for concern and makes the conclusion for those few people who go ahead to say, after all, the population don't care. And when the population don't care, the politicians decide whatever thing they decide and impose on the people. There is a time that even the politician gets fatigued if such fight is not yielding fruit. Remember, every human being have what we call personal interest and collective interest. And when someone sacrifices his or her personal interest for collective interest, and such a collective interest is not yielding fruit, the person wears out over time. And this is why I am calling every Cameroonian on behalf of the Popular Action Party and on behalf of Cameroon opposition to keep on doing the right thing and looking forward for the positive change that is coming. Remember, we are 24 months to the real political season, to the calendar of local elections. This is the right time for us to say, hey, we have to go to get our voters' cards. We have to start scrutinizing Cameroonian politicians on their words and action. Feel the politician. Let's start establishing that competition. I want to disagree with some of my brothers or people who think that when an opposition opposes another opposition, it is fight. It is not fight. It is the sweetness of competitive politics. I have to tell Mr. Tayon that I don't think the idea of CRM is the best, because I think mine is the best. That's competition. I have to tell Mr. Ndifo that what they are proposing, SDF, is not the best. PAP is the best. It's competition. And the same thing with Mr. Tata. And that competition now makes the best person to emerge. And that is why in countries of serious political competition, the best person makes sure that he implements the policy he promised the population, such that at the end of such a vote, the person will come to say that, hey, you are evaluated based on what you have done for the period of time given to you.
Yes, it is very okay for opposition parties to disagree and maybe to challenge other opposition parties. That is fine. But when opposition parties start making false claims against another opposition party, start smearing or launching smear campaigns on another opposition party, that's where it becomes a problem.
Your point has been made. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Glad seeing the Kangaroo Man in the studio today. Thomas is writing from Dibanda. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and your panelists. Glad to see Kangaroo Man after a long time. Levis Gip writing from Bafanji. Good evening, Pakum. What a nice program. Greet the Kangaroo Man for me. I have overmissed his knowledge. Kangaroo Man, where have you been? Jean is writing from Yaoundé. Mr. Kum, good evening. How will the youth even vote when they don't register in the electoral register? Many youths will want to register, but the system in place has acquisition of ID card hectic, thereby scaring the youth from registering. Daisy from Kumba says, good evening, Mr. Leo, and to all the panelists. A wonderful topic with a wonderful cream of panelists. Special greetings to Mr. Fa. Okay, good evening, Mr. Leo and panelists. Thank you for the good topic. In my opinion, the opposition in Cameroon is egoistic and does not have the common man at heart. Mr. Leo, what stops the so-called opposition parties to form a coalition to face the ruling party? It is because each opposition leader, for egocentric reasons, wants to lead such a coalition, and as such, mushroom parties come up day in, day night, enabling the ruling party to be stronger. Eno Mulubat writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Kuman Co. I have a question for the opposition parties leaders there. Please, do you people really love Cameroon? Why can you people not merge and form a political coalition so as to quit the ruling party? Don't you see that most of you are just making business with the ruling party? Do you people know that the population have lost the trust in the parties? However, what advice do you, the opposition, have for the population to always protect their votes at the poll? Nanje John, watching from Yaoundé, the Deputy Communication Secretary for the CRM, is going to answer you. Good evening to you all in the studio. To my opinion, casting of vote is not the problem. All Cameroonians can cast their votes on an opposition party. It will not change because the DOs, SDOs, was supposed to be free for people to vote, but they are backing the ruling party. Okay. Good evening, sir. I'm Elva from Bamenda. My best credit union is Tarikun Cooperative Credit Union. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please tell the representatives of all those opposition parties that the mere fact that they cannot unite and oust the ruling party is a failure on the part. Good evening, Mr. Kum. I appreciate the choice of topic. To me, the opposition in Cameroon takes 20% and the government 80%. The opposition parties lack sponsors since they have no access to state funds. Okay, access, you meant? The regime in power have hijacked every civil servant to be CPDM. All CPDM rallies are run and sponsored with state assets and funds. Okay. Kabe Victor from Suza says, to me, I don't really blame the population or the opposition. Rather, I blame the political atmosphere. Sometimes the population feel that their votes don't count. Then some opposition leaders come into the scene with a lot of enthusiasm just to find out how rough the terrain is. Mr. Leo, good evening. Charles from Bamenda, thanks for bringing back the Kangaroo Man. He has been missing in the program. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The almighty Kikai Kilaiki Credit Union is the best. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and to you all in the program. It's very educative. Esther is writing from Kumba. For Elvis Tayong, yes, many Cameroonians are dying to see a coalition for the opposition in Cameroon.
Let me start by answering one of the worries of one of the panelists there who was talking about why is it that, just like you're asking the question, why is that we are not united? Now, I think historians will listen to us and understand that when it comes to every formation of a country, there are sociological and anthropological components that determines the political evolution of that particular state in question. For example, the way in which America was formed is not the same way under which Cameroon was formed. People should understand this, because I hear people say several times, we're supposed to have, why can parties not function together, this and that. One, it is a wish, but difficult. Why? Because with the French system of government, from the time of President Amadou Ahidjo, they themselves were the colonial masters who brought in a borrowed system of administration onto us, knew that from the lessons they learned during the Marquis period, the Marquisate period and the UPC, they got to learn, because the Marquisate period and UPC gave a serious blow on the French before they had to start arresting and killing the leaders while others went on exile. Now, in that case, as evolutions went on during the period of Amadou Ahidjo, and then getting into President Paul Biya, they now understood in their own philosophy, in the formation of the administrative setup, in that the more political parties they make it possible for them to exist, the weaker they will be to fight the opposition party. So people should, this is historical fact. So if you understand sociology, anthropology, you take with South Africa, you take with Morocco, you take now with Algeria, you come back to Ghana, you understand why some countries cannot have two political parties, because the historicity that groups them together completely differs. Away from that, you realize that people will ask, but why is it that we cannot come together? Now, this one comes into play again. The historical background of persons coupled with their economic, socio-political aspect matters. For example, it will be difficult for all of us to reason as one, as Paul will say. Why? Because several factors come into play. One, what is the economic prowess of the people in that country? What is their economic stamina? All of these things, they matter. What is their income annually? Now, if a man is living on $1 per day, it means that he's hungry. Now, it takes the light of another built somebody to reject an offer that could put food on his table. Now, we have civil service oriented system, which we must admit.
Everybody wants to
be in the civil service. And because the system worked out this carefully, they will not want us to have industries and be self-employed. They will not want to put in place a system of education which will make people to be self-employed, because they will be able to have financial prowess that they can withstand all these mechanisms put in place by the government. By so doing, it is a carefully worked out mechanism. So since as you want to be at the civil service, your sister wants to be at the civil service, this one wants to go to ENAM, as they are fighting for all of this, the ruling party now comes in with some of these offers. If you are a fund in your area, please, if you support and make sure that people support me, I can be able to take few of your elite, this number into ENAM, this one into IRIC, this one into ENS, this one into ENSET. So you see, all these factors play, and at the end of it, food on the table is what matters. I will tell you, Mr. Leo, it takes just few of us who could decide to be poor and not to sell our consciences. But sometimes I will tell you that if you are doing a finding on prostitution in Douala, it's true, you ask the girl, why are you prostituting? But if that girl tells you her story on the need to survive, prostitution is a bad thing. But you discover that because she met some person sociologically that groomed her into that, which was the wrong direction, she now felt that it was the right way because she needs to survive. And that's why the prostitutes, if you come and give them 50,000 francs to leave Kwasa and go and start a business, they will tell you that no. Because they imagine a bourgeoisie who will come by night, even if he comes once in a month, and he can foot their bills for 200,000 francs, they will tell you that money you gave them is just stripping money. So these factors matter a lot when we're analyzing the political landscape of Cameroon. It is in this light that it will be very difficult. I'll tell you that in as much as youths, for some of you are youth because I'm no longer a youth, I've bypassed that level, but I'll say for most of the youths, they will bear with me that the old and the administrative system have understood that they make it a way that they put the youths vulnerable. They will not give them good jobs, they will underemploy them, and they will make things hard for them, so that when political periods come, the youth will see as favor in that if they dance to the whims and caprices of the old or the older or the expired people, they can be able to get what they need. That's why you see a youth running to a police station to vote several times and collect 2,000 francs. You could imagine. But that's not mortgaging the life of persons for the next 7 years or unlimited term. Why? Because they have been able to move left to right, and the environment for procurement of job and self-employment, don't want the grammar people come here. I used to see all the private people come here, there's job everywhere, and they blow sweet talks. The reality on the ground is different. A man tells you that you can just plant corn and you have food, agriculture. I hear them do that every day on the platform here. But the truth is, agriculture requires money. If you want to be a real farmer
and to be rich, Mr. Leo. If you are poor, forget. It's grammar people are blowing here. Because even to procure the land, you surely need to have a land that's leased out to you, which is financially inclined. You will need inputs, pesticides, insecticides. And sometimes if you are going in a large scale, if you want to hire the services of an agri expert, it will not be for free. You have to pay him because he knows that farming technique more than you. Before you want to come to a limelight, you discover that it is a whole process. So at the end of it, political parties will function the way they are, given the atmosphere. We keep advocating, but no doubt that there's a need for us to come together. But sometimes I disagree. We also feel that we can come together, but we're not coming together because the terrain, the sociological component, as I mentioned, the political, are rough that if I come together with you, the truth is that people have tried. I'm not hiding. The SDF brother who here knows what I'm talking about. They tried in their own time.
Yeah,
that's the reality.
Yeah,
but it's not good because some of those who were in the coalition, we are holding a coalition meeting today. The next day they are calling Far Elvis, who was in that meeting. Guys say, come on. But Trouble Yaoundé, there's an envelope of 5 million. And you have been lavishing in poverty for so long. You get the point. You could see yourself taking it's very complex.
I want us to clarify this issue. Cameroonians are really very eager to see a coalition of opposition parties, but are they also aware of the realities on the ground? For example, there are parties that have basically tribal, ethnic, regional support, and they would not want to see any other person but their brother.
That is a reality.
Yes, because
a reality.
We are too tribal in Cameroon.
That's very correct. I think we as political actors, political leaders, we all have different political agendas, and we cannot see things from the same perspective. That's why it is very difficult. For example, I have my developmental agenda. I have my manifesto, which is different from that of PAP, which is different from that of SDF, different from that of CMR. Now, because we look at change from different perspectives, why will I believe that PAP will do better or will perform better, whereas my manifesto was built without his consent? So there are a lot of things we need to take into consideration when we talk about merging. I have lived and worked abroad for 10 years. I have experienced another economy different from that of Cameroon. So when I'm talking about change, there is something I have seen out there which is not here. And someone who has not been out there will not understand from my own perspective. So merging is not a problem as opposition parties in Cameroon, but the issue is, do we have the same political agenda? That is the question. And why would you want me to entrust my party, my ideology, my supporters to someone who has not proven merit for it? Because it is just like selling out to another party, as others will come and, in the name of different political parties, get the vote and sell to the CPDM. So I am scared. I'm skeptical that if I merge with you, hand over, surrender my party to you, tomorrow it might just be a big mistake, a big historical blunder as far as the politics of this country is concerned.
Yes.
On
this, yeah.
Let me take it from there. I seem to disagree totally from what the other two panelists said.
Okay.
If we are listening to the people, if we as politicians, we are here for the people and we are listening to them, where Cameroonians find themselves right now is in a desperate situation in which we have a tyrant, a dictator that has taken the entire country hostage. And what Cameroonians are yearning for is for an alternative, for somebody who is going to, a group that is going to take off this tyrant, replace this tyrant with something else. And when they hear the name opposition, the wish and the aspiration of Cameroonians is, okay, this is that group. This is that group that is going to come to our rescue and take us from the pangs of this tyrant. And here we are, that group divided in factions, and each faction claiming to have the best policy. What I'm talking about here is that when we talk about coalition, look, there have been 16 political opposition parties in Africa that have successfully taken over power. 16. Among those 16, 15 of them came to power through either a coalition or a two-party system.
Like the case of Buhari in Nigeria.
Buhari in Nigeria, we have several of those, Botswana and all of that. Now listen, there is no way we can sit here and pretend that there is any political party in this country that can on its own single-handedly beat the CPDM. And the reason is not because they do not have the support of the people. The reason is that the CPDM has all the resources. They have everything within their powers. We need some kind of a coalition. And when we talk of a coalition, what do we mean? This kind of coalition comes through negotiation. All right? It's not coalition about individuals. And that is where the problem is. The problem is always the coalition of individuals, rather than a coalition around a program, around an ideology program that this is what we want to offer to Cameroonians. The focus is always on who is going to lead the coalition. And that is where greed and selfishness steps in. Now, what do the opposition need to do? What they need to do is they come out with a program. If you go and look at the program of the MRC, the MRC will tell you that they are pro-federalist. The PAP will tell you that they are pro-federalist. SDF will tell you the same thing. If we all are pro-federalist, if you go even deep down into their economic policies, you look at their political policies, there is a very thin line of difference among these different political parties. What is so difficult in reconciling these programs and then present it to the Cameroonian people? And then we enter into negotiation, and this is it. This is where the CPDM beat us. The CPDM starts negotiation far in advance. Even with all the resources that they have, with all the mobilization that they have made, they still go into negotiation. They don't give it away. They still go into negotiation. They start negotiating with the UNDP. They start negotiating with this. And when they negotiate, if you come to negotiate with PAP, for example, if the SDF comes to negotiate with PAP, PAP should be able to see, what do I stand to benefit here? In terms of not personal benefit, of course. I have a program. Where does my program fit into this whole agenda? I intend to ensure that young Cameroonians are employed. Do we have this fitted in the agenda? You put all of that, you negotiate all of that, and you make a negotiation and you say, okay, the interest of this coalition, we have a goal. Because there must be a goal. If you look at all the coalition that my brother Far has just cited here, you realize that none of this coalition had a single goal. They have not given us like, this is what we intend to achieve in this coalition. What is the goal? You don't just come around because you want to pick one person and make a unique candidate. No. There should be a goal. Our goal is to reshape the political system, level the playing ground, and then we open up for competition. Right now, at the stage at which we are, there is no way within the present dispensation that you can tell me any political party, no matter how you claim to be so popular or so big, you only end up with 14% or 17%. That's what you end up with. No matter your mobilization, no matter whatever you try to do, you end up with that because the whole system has been fixed, structured for the CPDM to win. And so if this opposition wants to make an impact, to create an impact, they must be able to come together, negotiate. Now we go in and we say, okay, we are going in for a transitional period of say 4 to 5 years. Within this transitional period, we are going to put in place an independent electoral system. We are going to review the constitution, limit the powers of the president, strengthen the institution, the courts, the Supreme Court, and the National Assembly and the Senate, and make sure that they have enough powers. And then we said, okay, where does the PAP stand in this whole thing? We set up an entire government where the SDF has a portfolio, the MRC has a portfolio. All of this is presented to the Cameroonian people. This is what we have to present to you. Okay. And then we say, whoever leads this coalition, you have a mandate only within this transitional period. After this transitional period, if you accept to lead the coalition, you are not going to stand as a presidential candidate. Yes. And we destroy that fight over who is to lead the presidential, the coalition. I think, in my humble opinion, it is difficult. There is no doubt about it. It is difficult based on the circumstances Far has just described, but it is not impossible, okay, in as much as we are willing.
Good evening to you, Mr. Liu. And panelists in the House, I think probably when free and fair elections will be put in place, the youths are going to give the support to that the opposition's party deserve to move this country forward. Perhaps the youths are tired with the kind of elections that goes on in this country. MM is writing from Douala. Oh, good evening and nice to see and hear again from the Kangaroo Man. Hello, Mr. Liu. I'm enjoying the program. Congratulations. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Kum and your panelists. I'm surprised that we are blaming the population. I listened to a program today that they said the senatorial elections are coming up in March is not universal suffrage. That is that it is councillors of the different councils that will be voting. That CPDM controls over 90% of all the councils, and even if the opposition parties came together, they can't win unless the councillors don't vote party line. Don't your panelists think this is a futile exercise? We are looking beyond the senatorial elections. Papita is writing from Limbe. Amy writing from Jotin says, good evening, Mr. Liu, and to all the panelists. My greetings to the Kangaroo Man. Hope he will not be absent again from the program. Good evening, sir. If truly there is an opposition party in this country, for once, they should merge into one till then no one will believe them. Kum Face is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Opposition have failed in Cameroon because of them are there for their personal interests, okay? This one says, my best credit union in Cameroon is Menka Green Valley Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Ben Linus Fongu is my name. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the entire panel. The political landscape has not been favorable by the state electoral institution, the egocentric opposition, and the ignorant population. So I think education and sensitization is very important on what is called political ideology. The population is suffering from rational short-sightedness as far as electoral choices are concerned, and only political education and sensitization can solve this. Hillary writing from Bamenda. Mr. Leonard, greetings to you and your panelists. There is no opposition party in Cameroon. Sorry to say so. Victor is writing from Limbe. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Randolph from Boya. Our opposition have failed. They don't have any convincing agenda. They don't have their own sources of generating funds for their activities. Depending on the government subventions, the population views it as the opposition dining with the ruling party. But I want us to stay with coalition. Almost everybody wants to see you guys on a platform. But people, why do people think that coalition means merging every political party into one? Why can't you educate them to understand that we can come under a political banner for the sake of taking power, like Ndifo said, and then set the rules straight for future electoral exercises?
Yes, when I listen to some of the comments of Cameroonians watching and what is happening around the country, I feel sorry. In as much as I feel sorry, I also feel bad, because what they call political education is not an easy job. It's not an easy task. I can testify, Mr. Liu, for the past 5 years, since 2018, that I started being very active on the field, touching most places in this country. I can tell you for sure that there is serious problem of political education, civic engagement in this country, and that is where the problem starts from. If you go to our state universities or even private institutes and go to faculties of law, political science, departments of conflict resolution, departments of political science, history, and the like, if we have 1,000 students and less than 500 are able to understand the political system, the political process, the electoral process, key political actors, political parties, how do you expect the youths to even distinguish what is called coalition, merger of parties, credible political parties, different elections that exist in the country, and so on? So the problem here is not looking at the limitations of the political parties and what they have failed to do, but the responsibility of the citizens to be conscious and follow up. Mr. Liu, Most of our young people pass their time following entertainment stuff left and right. Go to entertainment blogs. They are full there. Ask them the question, why are you not interested to follow up issues of news, politics, which is the principal concern of your country? Now, we are talking about coalition. In coalition, there must be an objective and a goal. In 2018, so many political parties towards few months to the poll gave their support for the CRM. Now that is coalition. But now what was the purpose of the coalition? Strengthening a political party that seems to gather huge support amongst other political parties going for presidential election so that he could secure a higher percentage which could beat the CPDM political party. And that is why majority of CRM militants, as far as Tayon started by saying he agreed his president-elect, believe that their president won because the guy had support. Akere Muna of Now Movement surrendered his support to him, and a couple of other groups like that of Eric Kinge, like the Ashi Act movement of Penda Ikoka, and a host of other group of people, opinion holders, civil society movements. They supported him. That was a coalition. What else do you expect people to coalition? There is never a society where 100% of political parties come together. It's impossible. Now, immediately after the presidential elections of 2018, we had the period of electoral hold-up. In the period of electoral hold-up, so many political parties came again together. Even the PAP supported the electoral hold-up moment that they were rigging and malpractices in the 2018 elections, and we should look into it. And that time when the Constitutional Council was handling the issue of ballot counting, procès verbal and everything, Cameroonians were on the alert to see that, hey, this thing has really rallied not only political parties, opinion holders, academicians, and people who follow up electoral processes. That is a rally behind the cause. When Madam Ejit Kawala came with the issue of Stand Up for Cameroon and Stand Up for Cameroon movement, she rallied more than 10 political parties. Yeah. And the Stand Up for Cameroon movement did some activities on the field. Now, the issue here is that Cameroonians need to first of all know the different elections that exist in Cameroon. We have the presidential election, which is 7 years mandate, unlimited renewal. The limit to presidential mandate in Cameroon was removed in 2008 constitutional modification that removed presidential term limit, which today we are suffering the consequences. We have the senatorial elections and the regional elections that are indirect suffrage, like what is coming in March, like the guy that sent the comment. The population have no influence in this kind of election because it is people who were elected by direct universal suffrage that are now electing the senators. And we now have the municipal and the local elections that are direct universal suffrage, and it is 5 years term limit. Look at the trick. Most often, when electoral season is coming in Cameroon, we always have the president playing around the prerogative of postponing mandates of parliamentarians, mayors, and councillors. And when he does this postponement, it permits him and them to conduct presidential elections before conducting local elections. Something which is usually not normal. And for Cameroonians to understand that they are the ones to get up and say, no, we must follow the electoral calendar, hold local elections before holding presidential elections. We are saying these things because we are moving towards another very critical moment. And very soon you people will be asking questions, why are opposition parties not coming together? Why are opposition parties not coming together? The Popular Action Party had already declared openly to Cameroonians that we are in some sort of coalition with party from the north, MPAC, and we are working and negotiating and seeing how to consult some other people to see how we could be in this train of bringing progressive forces together. We have had discussions on issue of it is time for us to look at question of Anglophone president, question of this and that. And these are the kind of things that may federate people. There is platform where it brought together other political parties and opinion leaders, federalist movement. There is time for all persons, irrespective of political party, to come to the to the forum where we could advocate for return to federalism, where in this forum we could come with a candidate that the person believes in this agenda and implement it. This is coalition of people from different political background. What Cameroonians need to know first is the electoral calendar and all the gymnastics, how to play the dice around this electoral calendar, because the state is using the ignorance of Cameroonians, the population, not opposition political leaders, because opposition political leaders already know these things. But now, since the education to the people is limited, and the people, you can only educate a willing person. You cannot educate an unwilling person. I have been in seminars and workshops where we are in universities with master students. You ask them about key political leaders, they are unable, Mr. Liu. They are unable to provide you names of 10 political parties and 10 political leaders. Now, when you are not interested and you are saying politicians have failed, opposition have failed, do you want opposition to go and create magic and put in your head what you are supposed to know? No. There is what we call civic responsibility of every citizen. What we call political rights is embedded in the constitution, which no one is supposed to take it from you. Political right is your right. Economic right is your right. The right of protection is your right. In as much as you are a citizen and you are not exercising your political right, you have no right to blame any person that takes a decision that do not favor you. So it is very important that Cameroonians should understand these things and stop blaming. We are working and we'll continue working.
Yeah, briefly, just to react to Fabrice, who talked about the fact that there have been coalition. You see, we are not just talking about us having coalition. If it's just about having coalition, we have had several coalition. But look at the type of coalition we are having. And what is the planning towards that coalition? You come 2 weeks to election day, you hurriedly get people to come together and then support a candidate without any goal, without any objective, without any planning. And then you look at it, when you talk about people coming to, yes, some political parties came together and rallied behind Kanto. What happened after the election? The coalition collapsed. That's not how a coalition is supposed to operate. It's supposed to be a sustainable coalition, even after the election.
To note that the coalition that took Buhari to power was formed 2 years before elections.
Absolutely.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's Scott from Kumba. Say hi to the Kangaroo Man. My best credit union is Aziri. Good evening to all in the studio. Mr. Fai Collins, he said it all. No, it's Fatayong. There is no way you can get into farming without money. You will just be living hand to mouth, sir. Emmanuel is writing from Balangi. You're asking for the Kangaroo Man's number. I've sent that number to you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. It's Scott from Kumba. Hi to the Kangaroo Man. Okay. Please, I beg for Mr. Fa's number. Okay. Mr. Kum, the opposition have to learn to give where they should give and take where they have to take when it comes to sharing of ideas, okay? Emil says, Mr. Liu, I strongly agree with Mr. Nzi for Richard. No opposition party can single-handedly beat the CPDM. All the political parties should be able to come up with one mission statement with globalize all their political agenda. Chris from Bonaberry. Good evening, Mr. Kum. I so much love the topic of today. Greetings to all in the studio today. I think the opposition is the problem. Why can't they form a coalition and implement a policy of power division which is federalism other than unitary system? I think for years opposition have the support of the population, but are too greedy and self-centered, which gives advantage to the government party. Okay. Good evening once more, Mr. Leo. From the defense put forth by your panelists against a coalition, you can clearly see a strong self-interest manifest. Why can't they blend their manifestos to form a coalition? My best credit union is Mitanyan Cooperative Credit Union, Enomulu. Okay? Good evening, Mr. Leo and the panelists. Thank you. The Kangaroo Man, the youths do not want to come close to Cameroon politics because since 1992, the ballot box has never reflected the minds of Cameroons. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Like Mr. Nzifo is saying, what is killing the coalition attempt is ego. If the focus of these parties is the people, then there will be nothing as these manifestos has done this or that. I vote for Keep Cool. I am Kinzika in Bafoot. Keep Cool. Okay, I don't know what Keep Cool stands for. Okay, we have heard persons say their best is Ziri, some say it's Tarikon. Keep them coming. Some say it's Kilaiki Credit Union. Keep them coming so that we can also discover some of them. Yes, but okay, Kikul is Kimbo. Okay, by Friday we are going to announce who the best, who our audience consider as the best credit union in Cameroon. Now, there is a voter apathy. One, many persons don't believe in the system because, as the last writer just said, he said 1992 elections were stolen. How do you, as opposition, convince and get people the more interested in and believing in the ballot box, since you all are into the business of taking part?
That's a very good question, and I come in like the issue of the coalition we're talking about here, like Mr. Ndifo said a couple of minutes ago, that, you know, with the issue of position, most of the parties don't have particular agenda, but I think it's false. There is no party that gets into an election without an agenda. It is impossible manifesto. If A has not known the manifesto of B, he should not say that B does not have a manifesto.
No, I didn't say that.
No, that's not what you said.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay, because you said they don't have a particular agenda.
I said there is a thin line between the different agendas.
Okay.
They have agendas, but there's a thin line.
And that is why my brother of CMC said it rightly. The way we are talking here, I've said, if you understand the sociological components of the country, you will not be beloved on this issue. Because when a man is forming his party, he has his agenda. And there's a key point in it, that if you want to lease with him for coalition, it has to rhyme or closer to. Right. If he's coming to you and that their own point is 2,000 miles away from his, he suspects you automatically and says, no, you cannot go. Right. Now, these issues are very clear in that, if you look at the issue, everybody talking about coalition, I said, understand where you come from and where you're heading towards. You cannot take an example of America and put in where it goes. Example in Kenya, because they all operated under different circumstances. That one is a reality. Cameroonians should understand this very well. That's why I accept now with Fabrice. He said something. We should not think that coalition means all the parties should come together, like Mr. Ndifo was saying, after the election, what happened? No. After election, parties go back to where they are to keep strategizing for next elections and making sure that they respect their modus operandi and get more militants, whatever the case might be.
And Bia keeps winning.
It's obvious. No, they keep winning is another ball game. Why do I say so? When coalition was coming up, when at was the communication officer for Franklin,
for specific cases,
there was a meeting that took place in Garwa with the opposition parties. SJ was also there. In that particular meeting, at that meeting point in the far north, where was the bone of contention? The bone of contention was based on how do we go from here. Now, the issue now of my brother who just came in, the MC, for example, CMC, sorry, said it very clearly, that at a point in time where an agenda of A is not very clear with an agenda of B, there's that lack of trust. It is, whatever about human beings, we should not behave as if we are coming from moon. In Cameroon, I said that if we move what Fabrice said, it's practical. Coalition in the circumstance of Cameroon policy should not be that parties should come together as one. Mbano, it will never go. Say that they come together and share common platforms whereby if A is powerful here, B who is weak there, supports A who is powerful in Kumba, and they give the vote and move there. If they come to a particular area in the far north, if SDF is stronger there, MRC agrees, and they say, okay, let us back up SDF in this area, while SDF will back us up in Kumba and maybe parts of Douala. That is a form of coalition. See, politics evolve from time to time. These are things you will not find in political books. Those who are doing political science. That's why you see they upgrade studies every day, taking into consideration the reality on the ground. In the reality on the ground, any youth who says that the coalition, you accuse us, opposition parties, for not coming together, it means you have refused to understand the other factors. Let me come back to something which is very clear. You cannot imagine that we have more than 250 tribes. They have a role to play. In Nigeria, you have major blocks, Yoruba, Hausa, and Igbo. You have the Ibiobio, Amasede, and all the like. There are minor tribes that have very little influence. But these block tribes, this block angle in Nigeria, tells you why if you want to put a coalition, you can go. How do you start with Cameroon? Let me ask, how do you start with Cameroon? It's a complex issue. I don't know why we are not understand this part here. Don't borrow politics that occurred in Nigeria
You borrow it to implant it. It will not work because the realities are different.
Never.
Now look at it. When we're forming coalition and coming up, the ruling party form up something. What do we call it? The party, the Bamileke. He thought it was for nothing. It was because they understood that we would function on tribal lines. And so, to dissuade people from the north, people from the center, from coming to MRC, they should consider Kamto as somebody who is from the Bamileke, that's called the party, the Bamileke. And that's why in one of the acting Kamto said, if there's any concours for him to write to become a Bulu, give him the concours and tell him he will write to become the Bulus. You get the point? Why is this so? Because we are in a system whereby I said the foundation formed by the colonial masters, transferred by the kangaroo system onto us is based on tribal lines. How do you start? There was a coalition that was put in place by Kawala. I remember sometime. Just in that meeting, the things were already transpired in the background. This one wants to come and take this and go to their own area. Another one came over in Yaoundé. And when people were leading, I don't want to go into tribes because we're not here for tribal issues. But when that meeting was still going on, at the end of that meeting, before they had a group picture, things were coming out on tribal lines. This one want to come and take it, so they take it to this area. And these are the factors that count. If we don't want to understand, we will be daydreaming in the air. So, with the tribal lines having a role to play, that's why I said that forget about the fact that we should come together and form one party. No. Say that maintain your areas where you are, but understand that where A is weak, B substitute. Where B is powerful, C substitute. Now, if we look at the other issues that we're saying here, look at the opposition parties we're talking about here. Other issues, factors with that count as far as this issue cannot work. I say it cannot work. Hear me well. It cannot work.
Why work is
excuse, I'm coming. Excuse.
The CP.
No, when I say cannot work, it means you cannot say the parties, opposition rally themselves together also
I did not
as
say
one.
all the parties should come
Now, what
together.
am I saying so? If you look at it, I am surprised when I get some texts that are blaming opposition parties. And I said at the beginning here that select opposition parties and blame and leave the others. Unfortunately, when I started my statement, one of us on the platform took it, which means I don't know what is guilty conscience, because a name was not mentioned. Because there are many political parties, even the one of Jean Jide Mumu, Kwadek, operates in that same manner. He started as a opposition party, and somehow, I don't know why, it became a bone of contention on the platform here. Maybe it was what they did, I don't know, but I don't want to get into that. But what are we saying here? If we look at it, people who blame opposition party, have you been able to act the electoral system? When they were doing the coalition for presidential election 2018, I was among the few Cameroonians who opposed that. Because I said the way the system is manned, if you like, bring parties in Germany, Abu Dhabi, bring them in Morocco and all that put together. From the results, it tells you that opposition still has very little to do if we don't dismantle a particular network system. That, Fabrice understand what I'm talking about presidential election, that parties, even academic and the rest, give their way to MRC. But you cannot imagine that one party is scoring over 75%. That's not an election. It's not a reality. Why? Because they mount the electoral system from start to finish with constitutional council and everything. That's why they will tell you that it is survivable. Because they have all the system. Yeah. I expect Cameroonians to tell us because they too are failing. Yeah. If we go to the street talking against electoral system, why do you sit and you are drinking beer in Boraberi? You sit and you are playing grammar. You are on machine doing this and that every day on your phones. Do you join us? You thought that it was a matter for us. Now look at it. Price hike is not affecting only the opposition party. Voila. It's affecting you, the driver watching me. You, the barber. You, the guy who spends every time in Monaco drinking. I said the way these youths drink, the way they drink. Cameroon now is consuming, if take a week, they consume not less than 5 million tons of beer every week. Is that the kind of Cameroon we're building? Now, when the opposition come, instead of you running behind them, choose the one you like. We are not refusing. Yeah. Because if you keep blaming the electoral system, how do we start from here? If we want to talk about it, the government has its flaws, yes. But I think that people are honest will say, opposition party, I used to praise Fabrice Lena. I've not heard it from that. Because when you see me even getting the award as the most active young politician, you get the point. It's not for nothing because he's always on the ground. But I'm from CRM, but when I see him, we talk because we are not in the same party, but we have the same area where we operate. That is opposition functioning. Do we come and announce here that I die with the Fabrice every day, or I die with you every day? No. So we would think that population have their role. Instead of blaming us, if SDF decides today, say honorable ministers that they are going to the street to talk about against price hike in in Douala.
That's a federation.
It should not be Honorable Ninchi alone,
yeah.
moving alone, and the water cannons coming to him. No, you the buyer beside the top pusher who is feeling that price hike. You are supposed to join him because it is not a match for SDF. It's a match against a particular issue. So that's where we are. So I think that when we are giving the blame, we need to be logical that these factors count, and that's why they have gone a long way to affect us where we are. And now everybody is seeing opposition party. If you are in our shoes to fight a man who has gone, a dictator, expired brains, and whatever kids put together, it is not biscuito. The things we go through, if we tell you here, you will pity also.
Okay. Yeah, but we don't know whether they expired brains in this country, please.
Well, yes, if you don't know that they are.
Yes, just to corroborate to what Mr. Fat said, I think the opposition deserves some degree of appreciation, actually, because as he rightly said, just being an opposition in Cameroon is a very big challenge. And now, a handful of messages that came in here, most of those who sent those texts made it clearly that we, the youth, are no longer interested in elections in Cameroon since '92, when they realized that elections were being rigged. Now, when you don't participate, you don't vote, you expect us, the opposition, to win in an election where you are not voting. How possible is that? Because the playground is open for both the population and the opposition. We need to work in synergy. We need to work together in order to realize this result. But when you say you no longer register to vote, then you go back, blame the opposition for not doing this, not doing that. Who at the end of the day will vote for that opposition?
5 million, you say 5 million liters of
5 million liters
of alcohol.
Of alcohol.
Of alcohol. That is a problem.
Millions.
We all share the blame. That is why from the beginning I made it very clear that the blame is equally shared to me. And that's the reality. Because now I'm going in for elections to challenge a government that I think is not capable of satisfying the Cameroonian population. But those standing beside me, they think that what is better is to drink alcohol than to go and register and vote. And tomorrow you come to blame me for not performing magic.
Yeah,
which is
not only the presidents here. We have the municipal, because it is based on those you vote for.
Exactly.
That will determine your mayor and then possibly the MPs and senators,
why
because we are talking about senatorial elections.
Exactly.
It is based on the
exactly. All right. Now we have, for example, the CMC is a new ideology, a new political party, and we have opened our doors to all Cameroonians to come in and join forces with us so we can effect a change. But up to this stage, you realize that you need to go and convince someone to assume his political responsibility to run in for an election.
You have to buy them a drink.
Yes, you even need to give them money to become politically active. This is so it's so frustrating. Then tomorrow you say opposition this, opposition that. You expect us to perform a magic that we just need to cast a ballot and change for good.
Yeah, Leonard, can I come in?
They have our blood.
Okay.
Yes. You see, I don't want to sound as if I am opposing the idea of calling on Cameroonians to register and vote. You know me very well. I have been advocating for people to come out to register and vote. In fact, I am one of one of those who believe that when we vote massively, we minimize the level of fraud. But I'll come back to this. I seem to understand where Cameroonians feel disappointed with the opposition. Cameroonians feel like they're wasting their time. That is what they feel. They feel like we're going to vote and someone is just going to win the election. And it's just obvious that this person is just going to win the election. Even without the fraud, that person is just going to win the election. And this is where I come back again on this issue. My brother Far keeps talking about policies and agendas, and people have agendas and have this. And I try to find out where is the agenda of the Cameroonian people within these different agendas that these different political parties claim they have their agenda, and because they have their agenda, they cannot join forces with other opposition parties. Where is the agenda of the Cameroonian people? Because if you have the agenda of the Cameroonian people, you will understand that Cameroonians are yearning, they are crying, they want change, they want to see change. their agenda is change. Yes, we have our different ideological factors or different political ideology. We have our different programs and all of that. We have that. If we keep hanging on, oh, I have my program and it is very different from the SDF, it is very different from PAP. We keep Cameroonians on the same spot. 7 years ago, we held our grounds that we have different political, I mean in 2018, we held our ground that we have our different policies, we have this, and therefore I must stand, it must be me heading up, going ahead and leading this coalition. Or maybe each party should stay on its own. And we are coming back, another 7 years will come, and we'll come back with those our agenda, which cannot go anywhere. Those agendas cannot go anywhere if we keep remaining as individuals. We divide ourselves. First, we don't have the resources that the CPDM have. The little resources that we have is divided and spread among several different political parties. Second, we do not even have the media time, especially on the state media. We don't have that. The little time that they give us, we use that time to fight each other, tear ourselves apart. Why the CPDM sit down there and laugh at us? The opposition is, when we keep doing this thing, the ordinary people are frustrated. They are dissatisfied. They are angry. And they have a right to be angry. They have a right to be angry seeing us fighting each other and divided the way we are divided. Now, what do I mean when I say we put the Cameroonian agenda on the phone? You have your agenda, put it aside for the meantime. We go in for a period of transition. That period of transition is to prepare the ground for each of us to now come up with those our agendas that we jealously hold and we jealously pretend that we have and we want to present. If we have those agendas, let's come together, level the playing ground, strengthen the institutions of the country, and then we can now call fresh elections in which we can now come in now with our different agendas. PAP comes up with its agenda, MRC comes up with the agenda, the SDF comes with theirs, and then we can now compete on a level playing ground. But how do we want to do this when we find people? You come in, just let me make my point to the logical conclusion. You have people, the CPDM has everything at its resources. You rightly put it, they have the state, the state vehicles are all at their disposal. They have the finances at their disposal. They have the military at their disposal. They have all of these things. We need to come together. The first thing is for us to come together. When we come together, we now tell Cameroonians, we are together. We want all of you to come together and stand by us at this time and let me fight. And we all fight this monster or this regime that is holding us hostage. We cannot by ourselves be so split and so divided, and then we are expecting the ordinary people to rally and come together and support us. How? How is that possible? Again, I want to be very clear. I'm not opposing people registering to go out and vote. It is very important. It is very essential. In fact, that is the only thing that they can do for change to come. You cannot have change by sitting home and refusing to vote. But then, I can understand when Cameroonians are frustrated, when they are angry, when they are disappointed with the opposition because of its division, because of its refusal, arrogance. In fact, I call it arrogance of the opposition. It is arrogant because we do not even have the force that the CPDM has. But the CPM still go negotiating, but we refuse that we cannot negotiate. We think that we are all powerful. Look, in 2011, I spoke with 5 different political candidates, and I'm saying it on TV. 5. I spoke with Pa Ayapo. Pa Ayapo, I said, you are for federation. Kawala, you are for federation. Ben Muna, you are for federation. Frundi, you are for federation. All of you. Pa Aya told me that he is the only candidate who has all the experience from being a magistrate, from being a whatever. He listed all those experiences. But I told him, it is not these experiences that win an election. It is the masses that win the election. It is the population. Kawala claimed that he has the mobilizing power. He has mobilized a lot of people. Ben Muna claims that his brand of federalism is different from the brand of federalism preached by Ayapo and all of that. When we keep doing this, what do we expect Cameroonians to do? They're frustrated.
Let me take few messages.
Let me just come in before you take the message. The idea to go off, please. Permit me.
Okay, come in.
Yes, it's very important. It's very important.
Yeah.
What I want to say is that I don't want us to sound pessimistic.
Okay.
You know, and at the same time, what we call responsibility, there is no concours to become a politician. There is no, it's not like, because when someone wants to exonerate Cameroonians, I will not exonerate you people. I will not. I know what I'm going through in Cameroon as a young person in my age.
You were locked up. You were locked up in Bonasa.
Yes. That was in November 2022.
Okay.
I was in detention. And in 2019, I've been in detention. 2020, I've been in detention. 2022, in detention. 4 times. I've been questioned in Secretariat d'État de la Défense 2 times. And I know how difficult it is. I'm glad Mr. Andifo is back in the country and he's here in the studio, because very soon, as my very good friend,
he will get
I would like that. We will travel together to Marwa to visit places. I mean he has come back. We are now going to be on the field to work.
Yes.
We will travel to places and feel. There is something. When he says CBDA has everything, I totally disagree. CBDA have only state resources.
Of course, and that is the everything.
No. That's not everything. That's not everything. There are people who have won a government with even everything. Yes. Ideology is strong.
Yes.
The strong-willed people is strong, and a determined minority crush even a majority with everything. Yeah. Especially when you people are at the moment.
So your focus is on the population.
On the wind of change.
Why are you not exonerating the population?
If you first, Mr. Ali, I want to say that when you look at Cameroonian population, there are a lot of things that has nothing to do with opposition or the decision of a politician, which the opposition is supposed to take it. When you see in 2021-22, when the African Cup of Nations stuff came, they imposed this issue of mobile money tax. I remember that period. It was this our Mama Rebecca Inoncho. She took to Twitter and started saying that this issue, if you know the amount of money that the government will be taking from your direct electronic wallet per year from this mobile money tax, it's unbelievable. It's more than 20 billion francs CFA that they are taking from more than 10 million MTN or Orange subscribers using mobile money transaction in Cameroon per day. Yeah. You get the point. Now, during this period, everyone was saying, no, you people should leave this thing. Let's enjoy our football jamboree and everything.
That is it.
And people kept quiet. It passed on, and at the end of the year, people started crying at what is happening. This same 2022 that ended, during parliamentary session, when the Qatar football matches were going on, they introduced the new bills, financial laws of 2023, that were now seeing fiscal stamp to be at 1,500 francs, car vignette to move from 50,000 to 55,000, and the rest, airport tax and the rest, and Cameroonians are sitting. These things has nothing to do with opposition leaders. These are things that affect every sector and every individual. If you feel disappointed in the way the government is managing things, you as a syndicate leader, as a common Cameroonian, as anybody can come up and say that politicians have failed. I want to take this responsibility to make sure that this thing change. Mr. Leo, in 2014...
It is not ordained that it
must be politicians. In 2014, the people that planned the manifestation that ousted Blaise Compaoré in Burkina Faso was never politicians. It was a movement, artist movement. Samski, Leja, and Smokey, who were artists, they gathered youth, started rallying them. They formed a movement called Ballet Citoyen. And when opposition politicians saw that, hey, these guys' momentum have grown to the level that it's going to change tendencies of things, they started coming towards the guys. And the guys told them that you are going to sit down like any other person and listen to us. We are the people determining things now. And that is it. Nobody has refused you watching to today take the responsibility of changing narrative of things. There is no place where they are going to take a form to fill to become a politician. You should be the politician. You should be the change. If you become the messiah tomorrow of Cameroon, I will clap for you and I will gladly work under your administration, following your rules and regulations. But if I have taken the risk and the responsibility, the minimum, I'm not asking you to support me or give me money. The minimum is playing your role. Because Cameroonians are not playing their role. What is your role? Know your civic rights. Read the constitution. Know the electoral code. Know your responsibility towards the state and the responsibility of the state towards you. Opposition party have no responsibility towards citizens. It is states that have responsibility towards the population, and the population have responsibility towards the state. Those are things that you people should know. It is not a matter of coalition or whatever. You can come up and create a platform and then bring all of us together and ask us questions. Why are you people not coming together? We will clap for you, and then things will move forward.
Good evening, Mr. Liu, and all the opposition need a coalition to beat the CPDM, given the system put in place by the CPDM. If we assess most of their manifestos, they have almost the same political, economic, and social ideologies. Thus, why not keep ego come together, if not for any other thing, but to remove the ruling party and then set their rules to govern the country. Big Eto is writing from Finland. Good evening, sir. Ampa Tachu from Limbe. The opposition political parties should copy the example of the Union of Change. They take up their program and beef it up for interim mandates, okay? Greetings again. I think I agree 100% with Mr. Nzi for what he says. Coalition in the opposition is paramount to kick out the ruling party from power. Let them come together and elect a Cameroonian of English origin expression to stand as president, at least for once after 60 years. Okay. Hi, Mr. Liu. Thanks for such a nice topic. Except the opposition political parties unite in coalition, they will never win any elections in Cameroon. Good evening, my friend Fabrice Lena. I'm Tanyu Etienne writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The opposition Cameroon can never form a coalition because of greed. My greetings to the Kangaroo Man. This is Walters from Kumba. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Valerie from Kumba. Most of the opposition parties in Cameroon are mushroom created with the sole aim of benefiting from the ruling CPDM. So a successful coalition is impossible. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The Cameroonian citizens have failed more than the opposition. How many Cameroonians do register to vote? They chase money and don't even care about what rules them. The ruling government, I mean all CPDM supporters, especially those of the Northwest and Southwest, they prefer to support, okay, the government. Masu is writing from Boya. Good evening. My best credit union is Azuri Cooperative Credit Union. Says Cyprian is writing from Nitop Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to all your panelists. The opposition should try and form a coalition, no matter how difficult it may be. Just as Mr. Nzefo has said, no single party alone can beat the CPDM. Alfred Tamufo is writing from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Kum Leonard, and to you all in the house. Cameroonians, just someone like Peter Obi of Nigeria, not these so-called Cameroon politicians who don't have the common man in mind. And the masses, Mohammed writing from Nairobi in Kenya. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and good evening to all the panelists. Hunger, poverty, and self-interest can never allow the people to think about unity of political purpose. I am afraid it's a problem that can only be resolved by the passage of time and economic change or a war. It's the same plague that has bedeviled the leadership of those fighting for independence, okay? Esther from Kumba, who is sending, okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm Baku from Kumba. I'm totally in support of Mr. Ndifo's idea of coalition, and best credit union is Guzang Credit Union. Good evening, Mr. Kum. Wonderful topic. Special greetings to the Kangaroo Man watching from Limba. Peter writing, which election are we talking about? If you mean senatorial elections, then we are really blind, because I think it is the councillors that are going to vote if the election was a serious one. Barra is writing from Manfi. We are talking generally, not only of this. We're talking about the way out. Is it also the time to rebuild trust between the opposition and the population? How do we build that trust, Kangaroo Man?
Well, the trust is very simple to build. It's to step up political communication. As I told Mr. I will be saying, Mr. Leo, if you go to Muliko and Bamenda when Champions League matches are going on, you would be marveled. These are matches that have nothing to do with us. I mean, absolutely nothing to do with us. And sometimes people even bet on those matches, fight on those matches. After shouting and shouting,
you drink more, you drink more bottles of alcohol, you come back and there's a problem waiting for you at home, you have not solved that problem.
Absolutely.
It means that the political communication is lacking. And so the only thing we can do to bridge that gap is to step up political communication so that when the political parties set up an agenda, we see it good. That's why you have what they call in politics sympathizers. Because not everybody who accepts a particular agenda in a party is a member of that party. So we need sympathizers. You must not necessarily be with us. As you can bring up a point, you agree. For that particular point, you can disagree with it, there's no problem, and you support him for that point. When another party comes up, but we lack that will. That's why I said that, Mr. Leo. The things that we are doing is that the system has also helped Cameroonians to be where they are. When you legalize games of chances, any economy that legalizes games of chances is doing that willfully to cage those who are living in utter poverty and believing that one day they will become rich overnight. That's where we are. That's why scamming will now come in and be taking its own center stage. Security forces now, I was in Boya coming. When they came down to Munya, and what were they doing? They were looking for youths moving together with expensive phones. So when they step there, they come there, they go through your phones, they say, no, you're a scammer, you pay money. So that is the kangaroo system we have. And so why is it operating that manner? Because the system wants it to be in that way. But now, if we're talking about political communication, I'm telling Mr. Leo, a football match is going on now. Many people watch by the rebroadcast. Do you see where people lost the focus? This is where discussions concerning your livelihood and your future lies. They are on football. It is terrible. And you understand that they can tell you the lifestyle of each player. They will tell you that this player is like that, this and that. They give you the history of the players and their salary. When a Kobo does not have a drop back in the Cameroonian economy, as per se, Manchester United will give you all the players. They will talk about this, highest paid salary and all the like. We lost the focus. Why? Because political communication is lacking. Only to come on platforms and blame us who are taking the shots from the kangaroo system.
Taking the risk.
Taking the risk. It is ridiculous. So what I think is that if we start with political communication, we'll go a long way to start making the youth to understand that even if you're not interested in playing the politics, listen to it. Because if you don't listen to it, those who call the shots, who are minority, will make things happen for you. Look at the price of stamp duty.
Wow.
1,015. Because you're not interested, you say, okay, you no longer take part in the political issue, you have given up. Now the few who are there will tell you how to live the life by force. The vignette increases, everything increases, all the prices in the market are increasing. Who are you blaming? You can't blame opposition. What can we do? We can only do the things we can do. But if the population, Arab Spring was caused by the population, Arab Spring, that a young man set himself ablaze, and it angers the population and a whole lot of it. See how many countries were affected. So we're not calling for an uprising in this nature, but we're saying that if people are taking the responsibilities, shunning away, let me tell you, I'll shock you, Mr. Leo, that if I tell you the amount of money people use for data, average per week, people use not less than, take an average of 500 francs per week for data, which does not take up to that because even there's a mafia there. The way they cut the data, nobody explains to you. So if averagely each Cameroonian take about 15 million Cameroonians who are using phones every day, just take a cost of about 750 to 1,000 francs on data. What is it? TikTok. What is it? WhatsApping and discussing. Do we have the focus? And the politicians want to try their best. You say the problem is them. How many chats do we have on our phones? Averagely, they are watching me now. All of you have phones. How many times do you sit? You go on Google. You find out what was done to improve on the economy in this country. What was done on this? We do the research and come and talk to them. Are they even listening? Are they watching? They are busy. A man is busy there watching his match, and you see he come into his house. All the football channels are there from start to finish.
And then he takes his phone and comment.
He takes his phone and comment. They have failed. What if you blame opposition, Mr. Leo? The good thing, I like that statement that before you blame the country, ask yourself, what have you done to the country?
Absolutely.
This is what Cameroonians watching us will be asking themselves.
Yeah.
As a blaming opposition, I want to tell you, Mr. Leo, that if opposition was not there, the kangarooism would have been worse. It would have been hell. So it is because of the fact that we hit hard. Even the human rights abuse we're talking about. If Fabrice Lena and the rest don't come here to hear about the human rights abuses, it would have been worse.
That is true.
What do you want us to do? Okay. So the media is doing its part. People are there watching football. People are there games of chances. and others are there watching Africa. Sorry, let me not call channels, but are they watching entertainment? Let me go for what you said,
Yes.
Fabrice Lena. Entertainment. That's what all of them are. How do you watch entertainment from start to finish? You want the country to change. Who to change it for you?
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and your beautiful panel. In my honest opinion, I don't think the main problem is a coalition. We need a politician who will rule as a manifesto that speaks to the issues of Cameroon. A politician who will tell us how, I repeat, how he or she intends to provide sustainable solutions to the numerous problems of our country. I advise our politicians to closely follow up the emergence of Peter Obi in Nigeria and how his movement has encouraged young Nigerians to register into the electoral list. Word for the wise. Also now in the time our politicians need to go on the streets and fight for the production of ID cards. It is not a mistake, but a political tactic
And they should join
to
us.
secure the
They
ruling
should not send
party
us.
No,
of
we should use time to
numbers
them.
in the
time
2025 presidential elections. Sweden Voice writing there. Good evening. Mr. Boni Mbamenda, a teacher cannot sit in an exam with students and he marked the exam and failed. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and kudos to the panelists. There is a lot of voter apathy. Why? Because of our electoral code needs to be revised. The population already knows whether to the vote or not. The ruling party will win. Okay, I vote for Mitayan Cooperative Credit Union. Grace Fogui, writing from Amanda. Happy New Year to you, Mr. Farr. You're welcome back for a very long time. Happy New Year to you all. Janet is writing from Bafusam. Good evening, Mr. Liu. My name is Diodune. I'm writing from Kumba. Even the opposition come together 1 year before, they will not still win elections. Our electoral system is not transparent. Okay, greetings to you all in the studio. Political parties merging to form one is an impossible venture. Cameroonians are aiming for their personal interests and not for the nation. Reason why we have over 175 political parties in Cameroon. Babcool is the best credit union leading innovations. Okay, Babcool, is it Bali?
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, Boundary Ebe writing from Makene. Hello, Mr. Liu and panelists. Good evening. I wish to upload Mr. Richard for brilliant analysis. Nice to see the kangaroo man again. I wish to say if the SDF and CRM merge, I think they can oust the ruling party. Glennis is writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The nation has been crumbled, and please, we need men who will keep away self and names with love and pity for the future of this country. Thanks. Bangwa writing there. Kudos, my favorite credit union is Kikai Kilaiki. Okay, so many persons are voting for Kikai Kilaiki. This one says my best credit union is Babcool Bamenda Police Cooperative Credit Union. Linda is writing from Makenene. This one says my best credit union is Menji Cooperative Credit Union. Okay, this one says Menka Green Valley Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Okay. This one says I vote Mitacool. Mitacool is Mitanyan. This one says best credit union is Mitacool. This one also says Mitacool. Good evening to all of you watching. Best credit union is Menka Green Valley Cooperative Credit Union. Okay, this one says Aziri is the best credit union. Welcome back to you, the kangaroo man. Where have you been? Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The best credit union is Bali Credit Union. Okay. Annette says the best credit union is Bamenda Police Cooperative Credit Union. Good evening to you. Now, we are talking. What are the steps that you guys must also do to be more appealing to those who doubt you?
Yeah, well, Mr. Leo, I must say it's it should be a collective effort and not just for the opposition. The reason I say this is because the opposition cannot vote for itself. It is the masses, the population that votes for the opposition. So I think we need to recommit ourselves for a common goal, a common purpose, and understand that just the existence, our existence as an opposition is already creating a lot of awareness, and we act we are like checks and balances for the government. So we are playing a very important role already, just existing as the opposition in Cameroon. Now I think we need to work in synergy with the population. We need to trust each other, because this aspect of suspicion and always throwing allegations against the opposition is also very discouraging. Now let me give you just a vivid example. I myself, I resigned from my job as a university lecturer from abroad. I came back to Cameroon because I believe that I have my own share to contribute in nation building. So when I come and, you know, I need to see that effort as well from Cameroonians. We join forces to effect a change. But when we start throwing out insults, allegations, unfounded allegations, and, you know, demoralizing us, the opposition, it's so aching. You do not know the sacrifices we make just to come and be here today talking on TV. It is for the interest of every Cameroonian out there. It is not for my personal interest. Some of us drove from far away distances just to be here to look into the issues that affect the daily lives of Cameroonians. Some of you are watching football, very comfortable in your parlors with your families. We are here. We might not even live back to our homes safely because we are for the interest of the common man. So if we understand the role we have to play as Cameroonians and work in synergy, I assure you that we can move to the mountaintop. Thank you so much.
Move to the mountaintop. Yes. What should the opposition be doing?
Thank you, Leonard. I just want to be very clear before we leave here with a very different message that I was sending across. I am not blaming anybody in the opposition, and I acknowledge the fact that the opposition is actually trying its best in a very difficult terrain. And I agree 100% with all the other speakers that a lot of young Cameroonians are doing very little to support the opposition, but they expect so much from the opposition. And I believe also that if the opposition can make any headway, then they will need the support, they will need the collaboration of the population. But I still maintain that Far has talked so much about realities on the ground. Realities on the ground. I want us to be very clear that the realities on the ground as we speak is that we cannot take off this regime without, I'm not talking about coalition of political parties. I'm talking about a coalition of every single Cameroonian who want to see change. Coalition of political parties, civil society organization, and every single Cameroonian. But first of all, we as the opposition who are leading this movement, we should start by coming together. That is my appeal. That's my appeal. We should start by coming together. When we come together, the people will start seeing some degree of seriousness.
You put the ball in the camp of the population.
Absolutely.
You people have asked for us to come together.
We have now come together. The ball is now on your court. You can now support us, and not just supporting us by going to vote, but supporting us even financially. So, like I said again, one viewer sent a message talking about Peter Obi and all of that. There again is that mistake of us always thinking about rallying support around an individual. We should learn to rally support around ideology, around a program, around something that can change the lives of ordinary Cameroonians. Because when you rally support around, it is true that we need leaders to come up, leaders that we can trust. But those leaders are supposed to come up with ideas and programs. And what I believe is that we need strong institutions, and we need strong political institutions. And within these strong political institutions, leaders should emerge from it. We should have leaders emerging from these institutions, rather than saying that we want leaders to emerge and then we rally behind the leaders and then forget about the institution. Because it is very clear. If you see what is happening today, the example within the MRC, let me use that as an example. No offense, Mr. Farr. But what is happening within the MRC is that in 2018, Kamto came out and people were like, oh, there is a savior has come to judgment or whatever. And people rallied behind Kamto. Gradually, Kamto is beginning to lose steam. We are all seeing it. He's losing steam.
Which I disagree.
And oh yeah, you're right to disagree.
SDF have done his dead long. Don't come to.
All right. So he's losing
Talk
steam.
about our party. How can you say S is losing steam?
And you will come to this level.
It's not personal. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm quoting an example. I'm
Yeah, but
saying
he cannot let that go.
Yeah, of course.
say he's
I
losing
said-
steam.
No, he did not get my point. Listen, Tayon.
No, I'm not listening to that example. Oh.
Yeah.